Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, because we get listeners from all around the world. So I want to welcome everyone and welcome to today's edition of On the Edge, brought to you by BotKeeper. Today, I have a special guest, even though I say special guest all the time, because today I have Randy Johnston with me. I've known Randy Johnston probably 45, 50 years. He's the Executive Vice President of K2 Enterprises, and he's only been there 37 years. He's the CFO and co-founder of NMGI. He's only been there 41 years. So you can see he's been in the profession a long time, and he still has hair on his head, maybe receding a little. And I'll ask him something in questions as we go along. He's also been on the board of directors for RX Genomics for 6 years. So we'll have to figure out what that is. And last night, the list for the top 100 Accounting Today influencers came out, and Randy was on that. And I'll let him tell me how many years he's been on that. Probably over 20 years. On his LinkedIn page, I'm giving you a great build-up today, so you better talk a lot today. It says, we help accountants use technology better so that they can achieve their goals. Our specialty is CPA firms, and we've consulted for most of the top 100 firms, technology providers, and a variety of industries in North America. That means he does USA and Canada, plus a lot else. So Randy, welcome to the show. If you want to add anything else about yourself, but tell us about the Accounting Today Top 100.
Well, David, I'll do my best to exceed the expectations you just set, which are pretty high. And yeah, the top 100 was the 21st time. I do consult pretty regularly in CPA firms, was in one this week already, in addition to speaking at a conference. So, my life is pretty much working with accountants, both in public practice and in industry. And I've done that, I hate to say it at this point, Dave, for over 50 years, even though, my NMGI business, we founded on December 7th, 1983. And this Saturday, we're going to celebrate that anniversary as part of our holiday party. But it turns out I was doing CPA firms before that. First one I worked in was 1972. So been around it a while, kind of like you've been around it a while. So I know we've got lots of things we can talk about because you're probably one of the greatest CPAs with depth that I know in the profession, because I can talk to you about anything and you've got experience in that. So what's on your mind today?
Well, I got a lot on my mind, but just I think we're on the edge. And Journal of Accountants, he just put out, I think this morning, or actually 3 hours and 37 minutes ago, nationwide injunction halts BOI reporting for now. It's not on the technology side, but it does affect accountants and attorneys, beneficial ownership, interest reporting, and now there's a nationwide injunction. What do you think of this whole BOI by the Financial Crimes Division?
Yeah, so I've sat in a lot of tax CPE this year, and BOI was always brought up. Globally, this type of identification is common around the world. The United States is one of the countries that doesn't have this. And as a point of disclosure, one of the intros you didn't include on me is I sit on the board of directors for a bank core processing system. So I'm very aware of bank litigation and money laundering, AML, anti-money laundering, if you will, because of the banking piece. And so this is one where I think the law was actually incorrectly written because they were made it onerous for small business owners, and they didn't really try to capture, they got exclusions, if you will, on the people that I think would actually be doing the crime, the money laundering, which is part of what this is all about. So, and I also checked the jurisdiction because that was actually ruled in Texas yesterday. And it was one of those favorable jurisdictions where an arms dealer had actually applied to, have the injunction waived. And again, not trying to sound ugly or political on that, but I do know a lot of the weapons that are used by drug cartels are sold from Texas into Mexico. And that's exactly the situation that we were trying to, have waived in the court yesterday. So, there's a place where I think that's drug money that those guys are trying to hide. So that sounds pretty political, but you know me to kind of have my facts in line, and that's what I think is going on there. Now, therefore, do I think BOI is a good idea? Honestly, yes. The way we have to file, that's going to be really difficult for practitioners to actually maintain, because the idea that you have to file within 30 days of forming a new business, a lot of people wouldn't know that, and that you have to update those records on a regular basis, that's going to be hard. This could have been much simpler, but like many governmental regulations, it was kind of half-baked when it was rolled out, and therefore the delay and all that kind of makes sense. And realistically, frankly, the governmental entities should have most of this information and returns anyway.
I agree there. They should have most of the information. Sometimes they're not finding it in a trust agreement, where it's a trust and you can't find a real name. But we'll let the Corporate Transparency Act sit where it is for now. Just wanted to update people that this nationwide injunction's in play. For how long, we don't know, but right now it's in play. Let's get to the important stuff that I know you deal with every single day. You deal with technology every day. You're on that intersection between technology and accounting. From your perspective, and I asked this question of a lot, but I think I'm going to get some real in-depth answer from your perspective. Where do you see the future of accounting going? I think accounting is going to be here forever, and accountants are going to be here forever, but how they do their work is going to change. So what do you see the future happening with AI and automation, et cetera?
Yeah. So Dave, as my friend George Takei would say of Star Trek fame, oh my, right? There's so much on this one. Yes, accountants are going to be around for a long time. The nature of the profession is going to change away from a lot of the compliance. And I am not of the school that compliance is going away. In other words, tax is not going away, audit's not going away. I don't think that's going to happen. But we will provide higher value services. Both you and I have been in the client accounting services arena for a long time. I think I've been a proponent of that for around 30 years, asking firms to really get into that in 1995 when we first created the hosted license agreement for QuickBooks Desktop. That was certainly one of the motivations for that, was to enable this collaborative accounting. But more importantly, I think the value for the accountants is in the advisory practices as this goes forward. So what I believe will happen is that the AI tools will eliminate some of the mundane work, enabling us to do more interesting work. So whether it's the BotKeeper tool, extracting transactions, or whether it's the Black Ore tool, automating 1040 prep, or whether it's the research tools like TaxGPT or BlueJ or CPA Copilot, or CPA Pilot, or the Checkpoint Edge co-counsel, or the Walters Kluwer Answer Connect, helping us with tax research, just as an example. In fact, Dave, probably a better way to say it is, I think for AI, which there's a lot of fake AI out there, but for the AI that's actually working, I'm tracking 10 plus tax tools, 10 plus audit tools, and 40 plus client accounting services tools. So every one of those doggone tools seems to be providing a lot of leverage for accounting professionals.
I like your answer. You're one of my first guests that had the courage to mention product names. And I always like to hear product names, whether it's BotKeeper, which you did mention, and others, because I think that's the true nature of this profession. All of these new AI companies out there are changing how we work. So when you say the mundane tasks going to disappear, when we think of tax preparation, what do you mention? Black Ore there? That's
Black
going
Ore
to
Tax
change.
Autopilot, because it will take a 1040's work papers. So if you've gathered a PBC, prepared by client, or client request list, you gathered all the documents, dump it into the system. It will do all of the work without a 1040 work paper product. No CCH scan autoflow, no gruntworks, no SurePrep needed, no outsourcing needed, and you get a reviewable tax return prepared. That's pretty stunning use of AI as I see it. But Dave, you know me well enough. I evaluate all sorts of products, and usually I try to name one, two, or three products that I think are doing a good job in every category. And, I'm just watching all the changes in these platforms. There is so much technology change occurring around us. I have never seen it be this fast. Now, some of the catchphrases that people use, I just don't agree with the way they say it. You will never have change be this slow again. It's always going to be faster. Well, it can be faster and be poor. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of technology products that are half baked out there that the sales pitches are good, but the delivery on the promise is poor. And as your listeners need to know, they need to have their wits about them. I think this period is, in 50 years, the time period where I think you had to be a better buyer, a better listener than any other time, because there is so much sales deception going on. When you worked in sales at Wolters Kluwer, at Intuit, and other places, we could name them all, you were always straightforward. Maybe that's that, Brooklyn Jewish background you've got. I don't know. You're straightforward. And I like that. My grandma used to say, exactly what was on her mind. And sometimes you didn't like that. But you know what? She always was speaking the truth. And that's exactly what I would like to see happen. So now, this future of the profession, the demand is going to continue to be very high, because I don't see the labor shortage getting solved soon. We are going to get a little help here with automation in the short term, with AI in the longer term. But for right now, it's part of the reason why, 26%, I think is the last number I saw, of CPA firms are using outsourced service, because they just can't find the people to do the work. And how are we going to get there? Well, maybe automation, maybe AI.
Okay, I think it's AI and automation. And since you brought up outsourcing, do you think the reason we're not finding the labor here in the US is because public accounting firms aren't paying enough money for the talent at this point in time? I'm using my Blake Oliver approach to why, the reason we're outsourcing is because it's cheaper labor rather than promoting using. And this will be my question: the labor in the US, does it have to be an accountant in the future? Does it have to be a bookkeeper, or could it be a consultant?
Yeah, well, that's got about 3 or 4 different pieces, and I'll try to address all of those in the response. First, I believe some of the tasks clearly still need to be done by certified professionals. However, many of the tasks today don't need certified professionals. In client accounting services, I frequently recommend to firms that they hire high school students and train them up, or get a community college student and train them up. Those people will think those are great jobs, way better than working in a fast food restaurant, for sure. Yes, the last 3 CPA firms that I have been in, all were underpaying their talent. I thought that was fascinating. Even in today's market, it's like, okay, tell me again what you're compensating this tax profession or this audit professional. It's like, oh my, that is stunningly low. So in other words, I think that they are clearly underpaid. If you did not see the news, and I know Dave, you stay up on a lot of different stuff, but a survey released this week on Gen Z said that the average expectation of annual salary is $600,000.
I'm going to become a Gen Z person. Okay.
I'm looking at that. My wife and I talked about it this morning. It's like, oh man, 600K a year. But we also know quite a few Gen Zers that are in about that income range, and they consider their lifestyle to be normal, as opposed to probably the way you and I were raised. That would be like wealthy people to us, right? And let's face it, the accounting profession is exceptionally good to a lot of people. There are opportunities we get as accountants that, many other professions or many other industries never get. If you consider the types of education, the type of people we deal with, the places we get to go, the way we get our education. I mean, there's so many things that are good like that. Now, one other part of your question: Indian, Philippine, Singapore, Croatia, South America, all those labor rates are going up. So the delta differential of outsourcing to save money is actually not as great as it was even 3 years or 5 years ago. So as the automation takes over more of that, I think the outsourcing leverage will also disappear a little bit. Now, is it always going to be more cost effective to be in a cheaper labor market? Sure. And, probably many of our listeners do not realize how different the labor markets were in the United States at one time. But I had an operation in Springfield, Missouri, and man, it was cheap to operate there in those days, not so much anymore. But if you look at the surveys of economic condition, with I believe it was Mississippi being the 50th economy in the 50 states, it was still greater than the economic production of the UK, Germany, or Japan. Well, we're blessed with plenty in our area. And the reason I think we have so much plenty is so many accountants supporting small and startup businesses. And we've got so many large businesses that are successful supported by the big firms. So, to me, there's a dichotomy because if you go look at the statistics, roughly 1/2 of all employees in the United States are employed by big businesses, but everybody talks about the economy's built on small businesses. Well, the numbers don't actually say that, but that's where the new innovation starts from. And, medium and large businesses come from good ideas, small businesses that start up. And those small businesses are almost always supported by a smart accounting professional that helps them, clear the hurdles to become larger if they want.
See, I agree. When you look at the CPA market, or the AI CPA, and 46,000 plus CPA firms, when you get by the top 500 firms, the rest are all 20 and under, and the majority of those 20 or under are smaller than 20. So
Mhm.
if someone wants to become, I'm going to just use the word accountant, not even a CPA, but wants to become an accountant and do client services, advisory services, if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, it's easy. It's not easy, but you can start a business and you can get to that $600,000 range with not too many clients if you're automating the compliance work, which I agree with you is never going to go away. But that's the lost leader as being an accountant, bookkeeper. People come to you for that. It's what you do once you have them as a client that'll help you help them. You get more money, they make more money, and that's a never-ending cycle. So I agree. There's a lot of opportunity if you want to start by yourself, and if the economy, the salary raise goes up.
Yeah, David, that's absolutely spot on because, the statistic that I work from is to make it to the top 2,000 firms, you only have to have 23 people. So that says that out of the 45,500 firms that are out there, 43,500 of them have 23 people or less. I always look at the flip side of that. And those are very interesting practices, often only one or two partners, and the direct contact with the clients is, usually quite good. You cannot get buried down with tax compliance, which will be somewhat commoditized. And as you look at the retail tax competitors, the Liberties and the H&Rs and so forth, automation, and more specifically, AI will make that financially attractive to do again if you want to do it. I happen to know what the new pricing on some of these AI technologies is going to be in the coming year. It's under non-disclosure right now. I'm going to tell you, as a professional firm, whether you're a CPA firm or a PA firm or an EA firm, you can absolutely afford to do 1040 tax. And I think a lot of firms have been pushing personal tax out of their practices, saying it's not profitable. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of those small returns are going to become business owners. And if my numbers are right, David, I think 7.2 million new businesses were formed during the pandemic. Here in 2024, I believe the number I saw last was 3.5 million have been formed this year. So just look at a 4-year look back, you got 10 million new businesses, and I think that's understated. That's a lot of opportunity.
I agree with you. And, I'm a believer, since I've been a sole practitioner, I've had a lot of 1040s, some inexpensive ones and some expensive ones. If everything's automated and you're capturing the data on these simple 1040 returns, because the data automatically flows in from a W-2, a 1099, a broker statement, it's very little work to get it done. But then if you help them with advisory services, you're getting more from a client than you would normally get for doing a simple tax return, and you can work with less clients to get it done. So
Yeah, and they want your advice. They. I always like to say I do compliance related work because people have to, but I do consulting and advisory work because people want that information. If you can help a business owner become more profitable with advisory work, what a great thing. And you're one of the ones that takes advantage of the technologies because you can run QuickBooks Online or Xero and get those trial balances automatically imported into Lacert or Pro Series, or for that matter, CCH tax or UltraTax, but so many firms have not done the automation connection, which is just wildly confusing to me because you can use a universal product like Tally4 to hook to pretty much all of the normal accounting software out there. And that also hooks to all of the normal tax software out there. And, if you're doing a business trial balance and pushing in a business return, why the heck wouldn't you flow the trial balance through, make a few adjustments, and when N3 says you need it, and boom, you got a tax return. In fact, you've heard me say this before, David, and you and I have talked about this uh, after I watched you speak at an event, and I was kind of next up to speak. But, if you're running a client accounting services practice well, you should have most of your business returns done within a week or two after the tax software is released. You just push all those bloody returns into the systems and review them, and you're off. And now you get all the K1s for the personal returns. And by, February 10, let's say, or maybe even February 3, you got most of your business returns done. Well, I've got a lot of firms out there that still aren't thinking that way. They're, oh, we got to key these numbers in because that's how we review them and that's how we think about it. And it's like, if you've done your thinking over on the reconciliation on the financial statements, you shouldn't be doing reconciliation and, mini audits or comps and reviews while you're doing tax returns.
no, I agree with you. Let me hit you you mentioned, like I said, a lot of product. We're coming up to the end of the year now. What would be a recommendation for people who are looking for new tools? Everybody's out there trying to close their sales at the end of the year. We're getting into tax season, and I'm sort of like a believer that people should wait till tax season's over and then start to examine, because I think between now and the next 4 months, there's going to be a lot of advancements in even the products that you mentioned that are going to make it affordable, easy to use, easy to install after this tax season, whether it be accounting related product or tax. Jumping into something now, I think, is maybe the wrong decision, even though some people want to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, you're probably spot on that because the amount of changes that are in the pipeline that I'm aware of right now, there's going to be stunning changes come mid-year next year. Most of them will be released just after tax deadline. So delaying is actually probably pretty good. Now, just for the listeners to have a few numbers in the back of their minds, I'm going to quote 3. I currently tracked 94 financial reporting tools for QuickBooks. I'm tracking 88 portal products, and I'm tracking 57 practice management products. Now, for our accountants listening in, it's like, how could you possibly know all those things? Now, you know me well enough. I've been following these for a long time, so I do know many products in pretty good detail. But how would you be able to discern what's going to work well for you? Now, here's a simple rule. Over the last 5 years, I've been on a couple of mantras. One of those mantras is less is more. A lot of people are buying all sorts of different type of tools trying to solve different problems. And that means you got more tools to support, more to license and so forth. That doesn't necessarily help you. You want to have an interface with your client that's quite good. That's why I've been on the portal road for so long, and it's secure, and there's lots of other things that'll happen there. So I'd like for the listeners to think about their end-to-end workflow, whether it's tax, audit, or client accounting services. What's it take to do the business development? What's it take to get an engagement done correctly? How do you gather the supporting documents? How do you pump it through your production system? How do you get an electronic delivery? How do you get it paid for? How do you keep it available to the client? End to end, that's what I'd like you to think about. Or as our friend Dr. Bob Spencer used to say, you got to think holistically. You got to think holistically about this. And rather than going out and making a snap decision, trying to put a Band-Aid on another splinter, I would much rather have you sit back, enjoy the holiday season, get yourself mentally ready and physically ready for another tax season if you're a heavy tax shop, and be thoughtful about what you want to watch, what's happening during tax season, how you make your people more effective. And at the end of that season, look at the tools to solve those specific problems.
I'd agree 100%. When we talk about, the tools, it starts with an automated engagement letter that they download from the portal or they access through the portal, and they complete it in the portal, and it goes into your practice management software, and you have your rules of engagement out there. And from there, everything else is automated.
Everything else flows. And see, when you look at new generation engagement letters, the NULAs of the world, the anchors of the world, and so forth, there's been some real advancements over products that were the dominant players like Ignition. And again, you can look on my website and you can see I'm tracking half a dozen or more of these automated engagement letters. But, and by the way, as you and I both know, there's too many firms that are using outsourcing that are not actually staying compliant with 7216 by not following the format that the IRS dictates. And some of these engagement letter products won't produce a properly formatted 7216 compliance letter. It's like, hello. So I worry about regulatory compliance with our firms. I worry about privacy and, so forth when I name products, because I'm filtering so many different things. I usually tell people I'm playing three-dimensional chess, but in this world, Dave, I'm pretty sure it's four-dimensional because this darn thing's moving all the time on me.
So what website can people go to find out what you're tracking and what you're looking at? I know you have a multiplicity of websites.
Yeah, but the easy one for the listeners here for On the Edge, I think is CPA Firm Tech. That's really the one that has all of the tools that we're talking about. And I will maybe take this on a tiny bit of a sad note. This past 14 months, as Dave knows, has been kind of personally tough on me. So I have not maintained my website quite as diligently as I have in the past, but it's still pretty darn tight. But if you go to CPA Firm Tech, under software solutions, you will find a variety of these solutions classified together. Now, I will tell you for sure that I will be updating this once we get past our CPE production season, because as Dave knows, through the last 40 or so years with K2, our organization has been producing about 1,600 events a year in the US and Canada to about 100,000 CPAs. Well, this is heavy CPE season. So until we get done with the last event that I'm doing this year on the 20th of December, I'm probably not doing a lot of website maintenance, and I'll do CES in the early part of January. So I'll see some of our other friends and associates like David Primes and David Cieslak and so forth, and we'll chat about things. Once I get past CES mid-January, I'll be updating a lot of this. But the stuff that is on the website right now, it's solid. And if you are looking at a product or considering something that's not there, I'd rather get an email from you saying, what do you know about this product? Because Dave, I follow the grandma rule. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. So there's some products out there that aren't listed because I wouldn't want you to use them. But,
Well, you're my grandmother. You're protecting me. We like that.
yeah, well, I want to help practitioners be able to work with their clients in a better way and the easiest way possible, because it helps me accomplish my personal mission, which I've had for a while. Help as many people as you can use technology in the way that benefits them the most. I've had that personal mission statement since the early 80s, and I've enjoyed living it every moment.
No, I do appreciate everything you've done for accountants. I've been to a lot of your sessions. You're very helpful out there. I'm glad you had the time to get on our show. I'm going to wish you a happy holiday season. And if people want to get to you besides cpafirmtech.com, which I think is a very useful site, any other way to get a hold of you if they got direct questions anywhere along the line?
Oh, and I answer all of them. In fact, I taught in Tennessee and Nashville yesterday, and a attendee who had never seen me before said, if I send you an email, will you answer it? Another attendee turned around and she said, I've been sending him email questions for years. He usually answers in 24 hours. You send him a message, he'll be back with you. So here's how you do it. My K2 address is randy@k2e.com. And my NMGI address is randyj Network Management Group Inc., nmgi.com. I monitor both of those. I try to respond to everything within 24 hours. Once in a while, if I'm bogged down on out for a consulting all day or speaking all day, I'm a little slower, but usually 24 hours, I'll be back with you. And because you've been on the edge here with David and I will not charge for a 30-minute consultation. So I would rather have you reach out and talk to me than to think you heard what Randy said or you're thinking about doing this, because I would rather listen to what you're trying to do and recommend specifically what I think fits you. I do not have a single cookbook. I am very boutique in terms of my approach. What are you trying to get done? Here's the best way I know to do it right now. And I'm going to tell you, David, May of next year, my answers are going to be different than they'd be today, because all those bloody products are going to come out. But my job has been to watch every piece of technology that I'm aware of that affects the accounting profession, whether public practice or industry, and at least understand the tenets behind it, understand the management team. And as you know, I generally will know the CEO, the VP of development, and VP of marketing at every company. And when I need help, I get help, because I always ask in the nicest way I can to say, look, you've got clients with these issues, please help. Or here's an opportunity for you, please help. And that's just the strategy. So I am going to have a good holiday, and it looks like ours are in sync with each other this year. So I hope you have a great holiday too.
Okay, no, thank you for coming. Enjoy it. And, I think you've been very helpful. You're putting it out there that you'll help people if they give you a holler. We appreciate that. I thank you for being on. Botkeeper thanks you for being on. And hopefully I'll see you more frequently next year. But thank you again, and have a good holiday.
I look forward to the next time we're face to face and we'll talk.
You got it.
Good day, all. Thanks for listening in.